At 7:29 on the cell phone.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Smith? Tom?
Okay. Good evening. This is the March 14th meeting of the Board of Trustees of the School Town of Speedway. As usual, we are following a printed agenda that's posted in the back of the room. There are 10 items on the agenda for tonight. Item 1 is to approve the minutes of February 14th, 2017. Tom?
I'll move that we approve the minutes of the last meeting, February 14th.
Thank you.
Second?
Thank you, Luke. Any comments? Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of February 14th. All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries 5-0. Now we will sign them.
Minutes are signed.
Thank you. Item 2 is a report regarding Wheeler Elementary School addition.
And a month ago, 4 weeks ago today, I explained to you that we would be occupied by this meeting. We are not. We have encountered multiple issues. One, the handicapped ramp entering the area was poured off 2 degrees of slope and is now being taken out and redone, despite the fact the construction fence is gone. And it looks a little better on the outside. Now we're fixing things. The fascia on the building is not complete. But now, more importantly, we have encountered a situation where we are not passing fire code on the fire break in the ceiling. And so the architect is pursuing a variance for that because we can't drop the ceiling in until fire code's met. Now, I want to assure you this is not a matter of safety for children. This is a fire break in the ceiling where if you had a fire in the evening, you would want less damage. You want a place to hold that. At the point of the writing of the memo, we were behind and thought that we might occupy on March the 20th. I think that we'll look at it. We'll be fortunate to be able to move the furniture during spring break and have the kids come back to the classrooms on April 4th. Our only hope at this point, we're so far over, is that being over another week or days is not as important as having it done right. And so we're working to have it done right, and we're working diligently to make sure that those who made the mistakes are paying for the errors and not us. I can't give you good news on this project. I just can't. But I would be happy to answer any questions, or if there are. The last few days, taking the construction fence down and grading the ground makes the exterior look a little bit better. The interior, other than, nothing looks good without a ceiling. So, ceiling inside, re-ramp, fascia.
And everything got held up by the terrazzo floor.
Well, that's part of it because of, different contractors. But I would tell you, in looking at Brian Kiefer, our representative, the masonry contractor worked weekends trying to make up for the fact that work around the terrazzo people, but the trades got behind. But this is not entirely the terrazzo, the fascia on the outside of the building has nothing to do with terrazzo. The fact that there's no roof on the porch has nothing to do with terrazzo. It has to do with they sent galvanized steel, and we won't accept galvanized steel. We want aluminum because aluminum lasts. So we're working through the myriad of errors, and it is becoming an ongoing, regular part of my daily life. I had to step in, and we're getting a little better.
What's the situation with the windows? So
The
we have
windows
that.
was actually a good solution. The windows that we spec, the windows that we want are custom-made windows. The reason we want those is should you break a window, and not an impossible thing when you understand that those windows face the playground and face the soccer grounds. If you break one of those windows, you replace that piece of glass. They're made to do that. Those are more expensive than what are commonly called storefront windows, where the whole section is made as one thing and the dividers are simply placed in over that. Storefront windows are less expensive, and if you break one of those, you replace the whole storefront. That's quite it's less expensive when you put it in, but far more expensive when it breaks, and far more likely to fail in terms of the double pane glass windows. So the manufacturer was not going to have the custom windows done until the middle of April. That was unacceptable. So the contractor, at their expense, put in storefront windows, and when the custom windows come in, probably after the school year, they will come in and take the storefronts out and put the custom windows in. Not a bad solution for 6 weeks because they own that window if it breaks, not me. But, that was an early one that really went well. What doesn't go well is not pouring concrete correctly twice. And not having the fascia on the outside of the building. Now, they started to put that on today, and if they got that done today, and I wasn't over today, then the crane can go away also. Because the roof on the porch can be put on without a crane. That's not at a height that.
Would you say in all the projects you've had, not just here, but in other schools you've been, is this a real abnormality, or is this just abnormal for us, or?
This is certainly abnormal for Speedway.
Right.
My predecessor is in his recliner unhappy when he looks at that, because to be 2 weeks over and not have it in sight. No, this was the kind of issues that I fought in a neighboring district when we had quite a bit under roof. But we're a small project. This should be done. This should be done. And the only thing that we're fortunate in is we've had the portable classrooms. We're able to look after ourselves. I'll tell you what I'm glad. I'm glad we didn't schedule this for 2 months in the summer and then all of a sudden we don't have it on August 1. Mm-hmm. That's the only good thing I can see is by doing it when we did, we at least know we'll have it for the school year when we need it.
And because they've had some really unbelievable good weather. You know, you can't say it's been a foot of snow on the ground.
Unbelievably good
Yeah.
weather. Now, weather is not the issue. This was a cascading effect of non-performance and issues that start with drawings and go, we'll learn from this.
Would it be serious enough that if there was another project down the line and this was the low bidder, you could say, we'll take the second lowest bidder?
Yes, absolutely.
Because I vaguely remember something like this happening one of the first years I was on the board, and that particular company was low bidder on the next time down, and Andy would not take them as the bidder. We went to the second one.
This memorandum is the start of that, because you don't remember in 3 years or 5 years.
I don't have the paperwork anymore.
No, but this memorandum is the start of us to remember that it's lowest, most responsive bidder.
Right.
This has not been a responsive project.
Okay. Thank you. I think.
You know, I'm sorry, I apologize. I should have been on this sooner and more diligently.
No problem. Item 3 is to approve the 2017-2018 Student Parent Handbook.
And number one, we presented last month, and from that presentation, as is always the case, we have some fairly minor but important changes. Patty's taken the time to go through, and Patty, is it worth, would you read each one of these to us and walk us through?
No. The major change on 21 and 22, just the student meal accounts, we tried to clarify that from your comment last time about what is a charge. So we put whenever it was a negative balance to clear that up a little bit.
And otherwise, we've made all small corrections and feel very comfortable. But again, we'd still ask and recommend that if you're inclined to move and approve this handbook, it's with the understanding that any changes that might be required by new state law or directive be included. Because that could happen this year with a long session, that could happen as late as May and June.
Laura?
I move that we approve the 2017-18 Student Parent Handbook
Thank you.
subject to
Debbie?
the caveat that changes
Okay.
required by law, yada, 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 will also be made.
And
I'll
Debbie
second that.
seconds? Okay, thank you.
Second
Any
what
other
she said.
comments?
I'll second what you said.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the 2017-2018 Student Parent Handbook. All those in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Again, with the caveat that any changes needed by law will be put in there. Okay, item number 4 is to approve the memorandum of understanding with Speedway Foreign Exchange Incorporated.
And first, let me say that many small changes were handled pretty quickly by our attorney and English teacher in residence and helped me, and all of those, quite frankly, passed muster with our attorney. They looked at those like, well, that was just normal and good. But the changes that Krieg DeVault have suggested would be the addition of a clause in number 3, including nor incur any liability, and then under section 4, a clear disclaimer, and I would recommend that with these changes, we move ahead with this memorandum.
Luke?
I move that we approve the memorandum of understanding with the Speedway Foreign Exchange.
Thank you. Laura, second. Any comments? All those in favor of approving the,
Has the Speedway Foreign Exchange seen this back yet?
They have seen a draft copy, and my intent will be to sign 2 copies after the meeting tonight. 3 copies, I'll keep one for us signed, send 2 to them, hopefully they'll send one. But I've been assured that they absolutely appreciate us doing this. That there's no change here that was not in their intent, and I think they appreciate that our council worked through it, and the bill went to us.
okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the memorandum of understanding with the Speedway Foreign Exchange Incorporated. All those in favor? Motion carries 5-0. And we don't have to sign anything. Item 5 is acknowledgement of grants received.
And I'd recommend that you accept by consensus $198,459.45 in grants.
I think we concur on that. Item 6 is to approve a request for temporary disability leave of absence.
And the recommendation is that you approve a temporary leave of absence from April 4th through May 9th for Miss Laura Brim.
I'll move that we approve the request for leave of absence for Laura Brim from April 4th to May 9th.
Thank you. Tom?
I'll second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the temporary disability leave of absence for Laura Brim. I don't imagine there's any comments. All those in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Yeah, I had a discussion with Ken on some of this when we were going over the agenda. It was like, if you don't do this, you're in trouble with the law.
But I'm going to ask when things are, our council, if it's legally required, you have to give it the disability leave of absence. Why would it have to be approved? And occasionally then it becomes a maternity leave of absence, but even that is covered under FMLA for the first 12 weeks and then up to a year under the law. I think probably the one that would need to be approved by the board would be the unpaid maternity leave, because that gives the board the authority to enter into contract with someone else. I'm going to ask. It seems to me we're kind of doing things here that are a little redundant, or not necessary, but.
Okay. All right, item 7 is resignation and
We actually have two
resignations.
when I made the agenda, we had one, Miss Donna Essex has resigned from being a custodian, and Carol Gerald, who has served a lot of meals
Lot of
to
years,
a
a lot
lot of
of
children, has given her intent to retire, so she is resigning at the end of the school year. But you'll also notice that Carol may well fail at retirement. She's willing to come back and be a sub. And so consequently, she'll go from working only at the junior high to wherever we need her. But I would recommend that you recognize her resignation for retirement and accept the resignation of Miss Essex.
Board's pleasure. Tom?
I'll move that we accept the resignations of Donna Essex and Carol Gerald.
A second? Luke?
Second, I'm sorry, Luke got it.
Any comments? It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resignation of Donna Essex as a custodian and Carol Gerald as a cafeteria worker. All those in favor? Motion carries 5-0. And item 8 is employment recommendations.
And the recommendation is to employ Miss Rachel Childers Oliver as a custodian, filling the spot vacated by Miss Essex. She has been on the job with administrative approval, and proud to say has had a good couple weeks, and been here every day, and that makes me pleased. Also, I'm recommending Miss Jessica Bartley to fill the second half of the junior high assistant musical director. The reason this is unusual is Miss Bartley was approved as a volunteer last month. The paid assistant director couldn't finish her responsibilities, so she has taken over more responsibilities. And so you've seen her credentials. What I need to assure you of is the difference between a volunteer and a paid employee is they have to do an extended criminal history check, which we have put her through. So the recommendation is to employ her technically as half-time or the second half of the junior high assistant director for the musical.
Luke?
I move that we approve the employment recommendations of Rachel Childers Oliver and Jessica Bartley.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you, Debbie. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the employment of Rachel Childers Oliver as a custodian and Ms. Jessica Bartley as the assistant director of the junior high musical. With pay this time.
Yes.
All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries 5-0. Are there any add-ons?
There are no add-ons for action, but one thing I would like to call your attention to, and in doing so, I'm hopefully calling attention to those who watch the board meeting. Each year, all school corporations put out an annual performance report. That's data collected by the Indiana Department of Education, released to the Indianapolis Star, and then published in a document. The document is to be published somewhere between March 15th and March 31. We have received at least four different versions of the data, of which in each one we found data that we thought was incorrect and sent back to the state. We are not the only school corporation who has done that. And so earlier in your packet, you received the March 3rd version. Today, you have the March 13th version and a memo indicating the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11 areas that have changed. And I don't know that what you have in front of you is accurate yet. I don't know if this is going to get published in the Indianapolis Star between March 15th and March 31, but I will applaud the DOE for this. They are waiting until they hopefully have it correct. Much better to have a chance at more correct than give information out that's not correct. So look for it, but please know that even what you see in the Star, if you have a question, if that doesn't look correct, don't hesitate to call the Speedway School Central Office and we'll double check the data, because we have found errors.
Yeah, huge errors.
Not disparaging anyone, and this is the kind of thing that happens when you have a change in administration. New people coming in, working with other people's data, and so it's not.
Well, like, for example, on the junior high, passing ECA math standards, 100% 2 previous years and 0% in 15-16.
Do we know that one, or did we get an explanation on that?
That was an error on their part.
Okay, well.
The passing, or the taking the class is okay. that they didn't have the ECA this past year.
Yeah, because the 8th graders didn't take the ECA for algebra because they're going to take the I-STEP as 10th graders.
But on one of the reports we got, they didn't even give us credit for the students taking the class.
But that, you might think that would be cause for an explanation. 100%, 100%, zero. We'll get a call about that one.
Wow.
You can't pass a test they won't let you give. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Okay. If there's no visitors to make comments, so we will go and approve claims. Thank you.